I stand in my kitchen, surrounded by the warmth of the sun filtering through the floral curtains, while the scent of freshly baked bread fills the air. Packaged lovingly on a delicate ceramic platter, the golden brown loaves seem to glow as if each one carries a memory. I let the aroma wrap around me, a comforting embrace, and for a moment, I allow myself to revel in the bittersweet nostalgia of what it meant to be at the heart of this family. Michael was just a boy back then, laughing with the kind of joy only a child possesses. I can still hear the echoes of his giggles, harmonizing with the clatter of dishes I orchestrated with care. It was in this very kitchen, amid the chaos of flour-covered countertops and simmering pots, that I poured my heart and soul into creating a home. I had sacrificed my own dreams, those whispering aspirations of a career, to ensure my son had a childhood filled with love and stability. Every Sunday, I meticulously set the dining table, placing each family heirloom with intention. The floral patterned tablecloth, a cherished gift from my mother, would unfurl across the table seasoned with years of family traditions. I recall the heartwarming hum of our Sunday dinners, the aromas of my homemade marinara sauce mingling with the laughter and banter that filled our home. I can still picture Michael's bright eyes filled to the brim with wonder as he devoured his favorite meals, his little hands reaching across the table for another helping. But with every fond memory also lies the creeping realization of how fragile those moments were. I remember the first time Victoria entered our lives, full of charm, seemingly perfect. She glided through my home as if she belonged, and initially I embraced her presence, hoping for an addition to our family. But as the weeks turned into months, her charming exterior began to show cracks. The glances she shared with Michael carried a message I couldn't decipher. There were subtle signs, small comments that lingered long after they were said. At first they seemed innocuous, but over time they became laden with disdain, dismissing my recipes as old-fashioned or my decorating style as cluttered. My heart sank with each passing remark, the biting edges of her words transforming what once felt like a nurturing home into a battleground where I stood alone. It was a cruel irony, really. This house, once echoing with the joy of family, began to wrap around me like a heavy shroud. I feel the corner of my mouth twitch as I recall the way Michael would cast his eyes to the floor every time Victoria belittled me. I worried that he would see my love as a burden, my sacrifices as weaknesses. I had poured everything into raising him, and now I find myself questioning whether he ever truly appreciated the lengths I went for his happiness. I knead the bread instinctively, but my fingers tremble, reflecting the conflict swirling within me. Where I once felt accepted, I now grapple with the unsettling truth that my influence may be waning. I yearn for the closeness we once shared, for the sunny laughter of our family table, but now an uncomfortable silence permeates the air. As I slice through the warm loaf, the soft steam rising like ghosts of memories past, I whisper to myself, they can mute me at the table, never in my heart. It is a mantra I cling to amid the chaos, a reminder that my love and dignity reside within me, unyielding despite the slights of others. In the solitude of my kitchen, I take a deep breath, steadying myself. I am determined to hold on to the bond we once cherished, even if it feels irrevocably strained. The wedding day arrived with all the trappings of joy I had envisioned for my son. The church was adorned with flowers, the air thick with excitement, and laughter rang out as family and friends gathered to celebrate the union of Michael and Victoria. I stood at the front, heart swelling with pride, watching my son exchange vows with the stunning woman who had captivated him, believing this was the beginning of something beautiful. In the months that followed, Victoria surprised me, continuously charming my friends and family with her laughter and vivacious energy. She wore her smile like armor, and for a while I allowed myself to believe that she was a true addition to our family, one who would continue the joyful legacy I had created. But behind the nice gestures and enthusiastic chatter lay a darkness I was too naive to see. The first hint of disdain slipped through during one holiday dinner. As we settled around the table, rich with my carefully prepared dishes, Michael beamed at the sight, but Victoria commented, with an edge that cut sharper than a knife, "I hope your cooking improves over the years, Elena. There are so many new things one can try out in the kitchen these days." The laughter had faded, the polite smiles dimming in the face of her dismissiveness. I could feel the air thickening, my hands trembling as I served the food I had spent hours preparing, heart sinking with each additional bite of her condescension. That night, I watched my son, his eyes averted as he swayed uncomfortably between his loyalties, caught in the rising tension. I forced a smile, masking the discomfort that pulsed through my veins. He had grown up under my nurturing touch, his favorites permanently inked in my memory. But it seemed that my recipes would forever be overshadowed by the newness of Victoria's unconventional desires. Other comments followed, each one wrapping around me like a coiled snake, squeezing tighter as the weeks went by. At family gatherings, Victoria would offer her unsolicited advice, rolling her eyes mockingly at my traditional ways. Once a source of pride, now seen as outdated. "Oh, who really puts that kind of work into decorating these days? It's all about minimalism," she would declare, dismissing the cherished artifacts of my life. Michael's passive silence was a dagger, a painful reminder that I was alone in my struggle to uphold our family's heritage. Even in simple tasks, our worlds collided. On one mundane weekday, I invited her to bake cookies with me, hoping to establish a bond. I gathered the ingredients, feeling excitement bubbling within me, only for Victoria to arrive late, a smug smirk dancing on her lips. "I prefer store-bought," she shrugged, her tone saturated with disdain, shattering my efforts. "Why waste time when you can buy perfection?" Those words struck me like a physical blow, intensifying my growing realization that this was not merely about cakes or decorations. It was a complete assault on my identity, my very essence. There had been no genuine bonding, no shared laughter. Each encounter felt like a battle, each moment a reminder that my legacy was being undermined. Days turned into weeks, and the small, insidious comments morphed into those glances, those sharp looks exchanged between Michael and Victoria, unspoken conversations betraying me. The once lively Sunday dinners became tense silences. Laughter faded into the crevices of my memories. I would set the table, each place setting meticulously placed, only to feel a wave of heat flush my cheeks when I noticed a smirk creeping upon Victoria's face as she assessed the floral arrangements. Hoping for an invitation to help, I felt like an outsider in my own home. The silence grew louder, enveloping me in isolation. I still held on to our family gatherings, trying to maintain at least the illusion of love and connection. The grandchildren, Maya and Leo, brought some warmth, but the distance between Victoria and me transformed them into mere pawns in our unfolding drama. I found myself retreating further into the memories that haunted my kitchen. Each loaf of bread, every pot roast, each plate filled with love found its way to the back of my mind as Victoria and her disdain crept forward. I leaned heavily on my rituals, my routines, and every surface of my house pulsated with the ghosts of what once was. I often replayed Michael's childhood in my mind, his laughter contagious, his wide smile filling our home with light. But now I wondered if I was losing my grasp on him as well. The empty chairs of our family table echoed with unanswered questions. I longed for the connection that seemed to dissipate with every snide remark and inconsiderate gesture. In the midst of it all, I still whispered my mantra, a persistent echo that flickered like a dying candle amid the growing shadows. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart, I reassured myself, though each repetition felt like a tether fraying beneath the pressure of relentless abuse. It would not be long before the tension reached a breaking point, leaving me to grasp for threads of dignity and reclaim my voice. The feeling within me shifted, an unsettling fusion of despair paired with an ember of defiance lurking just below the surface. I would not let this chapter define who I was. The slow creep of humiliation had left me navigating a thick fog, each interaction with Victoria becoming an exercise in emotional endurance. My once bustling home now felt like a cage, with the vibrancy all but drained from our family gatherings. What was once filled with laughter now echoed with the heavy silence of unspoken words and exchanged glances that left a bitter taste in my mouth. At dinner, I would carefully set the table, meticulously aligning the utensils, hoping that my efforts might offer a bridge to close the widening chasm between us. But the air grew thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of their joint silence pressing against me. Victoria would engage the children, her voice bright and sugary, yet each laugh seemed directed at me, sharp as a dagger. Maya might giggle at a joke, only for the room to grow tense as all eyes flicked to me, the discomfort palpable. One evening, I had prepared my signature lemon chicken, the rich aroma wafting through the house, each herb a reminder of the tradition I cherished. However, as I placed the dish on the table, Victoria turned her nose up and remarked, "Oh, more lemon? It's almost overpowering." Her tone was filled with mockery, and the dismissal stung deeply, twisting in my gut. I forced a smile, but inside I felt hollow, as Michael, my pride and joy, sat silently beside her, avoiding my gaze. As the weeks turned into months, the humiliations became a steady current pulling me under. I remembered one particular Sunday when I tried to contribute to a conversation about children's schooling, eager to share a memory, only to be met with Victoria's caustic laughter. "Oh, Elena, times have changed. Writing names isn't exactly a remarkable achievement anymore," she mocked. The laughter of others faded into the background, and all I could hear was the echo of her words hammering away at my sense of self. The shared silence was a weight pressing down on me. Michael sat stiffly, fork poised, caught in the middle of our unspoken war. Despite my best efforts to maintain some semblance of connection with my family, I felt the strings of belonging fray. Each interaction felt like a brutal reminder that I was becoming a spectator in my own home. The laughter around the children soon turned into a mockery of my efforts, leaving me struggling to find reasons to keep hosting our gatherings. The kitchen, once a sanctuary of warmth and creation, morphed into a battleground of emotions. I sought solace in baking and cooking, clinging to the routines that had once defined my motherhood. Yet with each plate served, Victoria's barbs turned my fondest traditions into moments of fear and dread. Baking bread, the act that used to fill my heart with joy, had now become an exercise in resilience against the impending comments that stalked me. Torn apart by this emotional conflict, I spent quiet nights journaling the silent humiliations, documenting the fractures that had begun to form in my heart. Each entry became a testament to my survival, a way to reclaim the joy that Victoria threatened to extinguish. I reminded myself of the laughter I'd known, the memories of drawing children's faces illuminated by my love. I began repeating my mantra. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart, not merely as a reminder but as a lifeline. Eventually, the toll of it all pushed me to recognize that I could not continue to live suppressed. I had begun to feel like a ghost haunting my once lively home, a presence present yet fading into the shadows. Each meal served weighed heavier on my shoulders, the air growing thicker with each interaction. Now, I am resolute. I seek the strength to reclaim my dignity, to confront the tides of humiliation and passivity that have engulfed me. I cannot allow this chapter to define me. As I prepare for the next family gathering, I feel the ember of defiance within me ignite. It is time to face the reality of my situation head on, to challenge the unspoken narrative woven between us, and perhaps to discover the voice that has long been stifled, my voice. The day of the family gathering dawned, and I woke early, the sun spilling warm light across the kitchen countertop. The familiar scent of freshly baked bread filled the air, comforting and safe. Yet beneath that warmth, a tightness began to coil in my stomach. Today I would confront the escalating tension armed with quiet resolve. I needed to take a stand not just for myself, but for the legacy I had crafted through the years, my love for my family, my home, my traditions. As noon approached, I meticulously set the table again, placing my cherished heirloom china at each place. I remembered each story associated with it, the family gatherings, the laughter, the games played in the backyard. But as I arranged the forks, I caught myself glancing out the window. Would today be different? Or would I remain an outcast in my own life, a mere spectator, as Victoria held court with my family? When they arrived, I welcomed everyone with a smile that felt forced. Victoria strode in, a picture of confidence in a flowing dress that seemed to only accentuate her superiority. I felt exposed, vulnerable under her scrutiny. As the children rushed to me, squealing with delight, I hugged them tightly, thanking goodness for their unfiltered affection. At least for now, their hugs felt like armor. The noise of chatter enveloped the house, but familiar tension settled in like a fog. As I served the meal, I caught Victoria casting glances, her lips twisted in what could only be interpreted as amusement. Each plate placed on the table was met with a critique, a rolling of the eyes, a scoff aimed directly at my choices. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of my mantra. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. Midway through dinner, the moment I had dreaded arrived. Victoria lifted her glass, drawing attention to herself, the conversation faltering as she spoke. I hope everyone appreciates the effort our host has put into this meal, she began, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I mean, who uses so much lemon anyway? It's almost like an ode to Grandma's cooking from the past. The double entendre hung in the air, a smirk curling her lips, the silence suffocating as she relished the impact of her words. My heart raced, anger pooling at the base of my throat. I felt the heat of shame wash over me as the laughter that followed tore at me like a rusted blade. I glanced at Michael, my last hope, and his gaze flickered to the floor, a silent admission of defeat. My hands trembled, and for a brief moment I considered retreating, but a spark ignited inside me. The ember ignited into a full blaze of defiance as I remembered all the sacrifices I had made, my endless efforts, my love woven across every meal. I took a deep breath, my voice steady yet firm. This is my home, and these recipes are part of our history, a history I hold dear. The words fell between us like a tether, challenging Victoria's provocation. But as my eyes flicked to the others, I saw their understandings shift. Some nodded slightly, as if they too felt the sting of her words, and I gathered courage from their validation. But Victoria was undeterred. "Oh, but Elena, isn't it about time we focus on new experiences?" she snickered, waving her hand dismissively. "Sticking to the past won't win you any new family members." The laughter erupted again, sharper this time. It cut deep, sending tremors of doubt through me, but I clung to the words that echoed softly in my mind. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." This time, I didn't turn away. Instead, I met her gaze, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm proud of my past, Victoria. You may see it as a prison, but to me, it's a foundation. Our family should respect all facets of this history, including the flavors and traditions that shaped us." The moment felt electric. I could see the shock ripple through our family as I finished speaking, a mix of disbelief and admiration rumbling in the atmosphere. But Victoria was relentless and shot back. "You misunderstand. I'm not attacking our family history, merely suggesting some upgrades, like better recipes so we aren't stuck in the dark ages of cooking," she laughed, her eyes narrowing. I swallowed hard but kept my composure. "This isn't just about you wanting to change me. It's about the choices we make as a family and the space in which we gather." Silence fell again, wrapping around us, a tightening grip where everyone felt the weight of my words linger. Suddenly, the laughter that had been directed at me transformed into something else, a question of loyalty, of family, resonating like a ripple against still waters. Michael took a deep breath then, engaging the table for the first time. "Could we focus on enjoying these moments? Mom's cooking is part of who we are, but if there's something we wanted to change, why not do it together?" His voice was tentative yet unwavering, a plea for family over feud. Victoria's eyes flared with indignation, but I could see the cracks begin to show in her facade. The room shifted, the tension palpable yet charged with a newfound promise. It was my moment. I'll always welcome change, but it must come with respect for what has been. Our family is richer together, not torn apart by dismissiveness. Victoria opened her mouth, perhaps to quip back, but in a moment of vulnerability she looked around the table. The weight of the moment bore heavily on all of us, and a decision flashed through her eyes. Instead of retaliating, she let loose a reluctant chuckle, the sharpness seeping away. "Well then, let's finish this dinner and maybe experiment a little together next time." My heart raced with the recognition of what had begun to shift. Perhaps today marked a turning point. The silent humiliations would breathe life into conversations rather than choke them. It was the first time I witnessed Michael actively engage, a silent supporter whose presence alone had always affirmed my role in this family. As the dinner concluded and the tension eased, I finally felt seen. I had reclaimed my dignity, not merely through confrontation, but through an assertion of my identity, my love woven into the very fabric of our family. The moment solidified my belief that perhaps my voice was not yet silenced. Tomorrow is another day, I thought, filled now with a sense of hope. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart, I repeated in my mind, confident in my place as the matriarch of this family, ready to make a change for the future we could build together. The days following that dinner unfolded with a renewed undercurrent of connection, a delicate thread woven back into the fabric of our family. Michael, buoyed by his newfound voice, had become a bridge between Victoria and me. The air, once heavy with unspoken tensions, now lifted slightly with the soft crackle of tentative laughter and shared stories. Each meal became a step forward, a shared space where I was welcomed and appreciated rather than dismissed. Still, I remained cautious. The scars from years of being sidelined lingered just beneath the surface. It was during our next gathering, a simple lunch, that I felt a twinge of unease re-emerge. Victoria had invited a few friends over, a decision I rolled my eyes at but attempted to embrace, hoping for a chance to further shore up our family ties. As I prepared my signature roasted vegetable platter, the fragrant herbs wafted through the air, comforting me like an old friend. Yet, the specter of her unpredictable nature loomed large. Would she revert to her previous behavior with an audience? As guests arrived and settled in, I felt a flutter of anxiety anchor itself in my chest. The atmosphere was buoyant with friendly chatter, laughter ringing through my home. Yet I quickly learned that in this realm of the unfamiliar, I was still just the same invisible matriarch. While I hovered near the kitchen, preparing dishes and ensuring everyone had drinks, I noticed Victoria deftly maneuvering between her friends, each quip more designed for applause than understanding. Isn't it amusing that Elena still insists on serving these old-fashioned dishes? Victoria quirked an eyebrow on her friend Lisa, who mirrored her dismissive laugh. As if nostalgia alone can fill the table. I cringed, every barb directed at me pulsing through my very being. My hands trembled as I plated the appetizers, fruitlessly trying to keep my composure. I sensed the sharp glances from my son and hoped he felt the same impact of the words echoing around the room. With every laugh that followed, that mirth twisted my heart, deeper and deeper into a cold abyss I thought I had escaped. Fighting back panic, I summoned the strength I had just recently found. I remembered my mantra, though it felt harder to repeat while I stood there, half battered by old wounds. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart," I mumbled inwardly, attempting to ground myself against the rising tide of emotions. Drawing in a steadying breath, I walked into the living room, ready to disrupt the path Victoria was weaving. "Actually, these recipes aren't merely nostalgic," I interjected, standing just far enough from the crowd to reclaim some authority. "They're testaments to our heritage and family history." An uneasy silence swallowed the room, but the shift was promising. I could feel the energy vibrate, the subtle shift from laughter to contemplation. I continued, my voice stronger than it had felt hours earlier. "Each meal tells our story, the love, the struggles, the triumphs. They belong to all of us, not just me." Victoria's face flushed, and for a moment my heart sank. Would her reaction be fury, a return to her old self? But instead of anger, I saw uncertainty flicker in her eyes. "But variety is the spice of life, isn't it, Elena? Maybe we can combine the old with something new," she offered, an awkward smile plastered on her lips as she deflected the pressure. "Absolutely," I replied, surprising myself. This was the moment I had long waited for, the opportunity to offer a choice instead of rebuke. "Let's try blending my recipes with yours, Victoria. But respect has to underpin the collaboration. We can honor old traditions while experimenting with new ideas." The hesitant agreement brought palpable relief, and underneath it, I sensed an alliance forming, however tenuously. Encouraged by the possibilities, I moved further into the discussion, dodging the old wounds still ready to fester. "Sharing food is an act of love, isn't it? Let's experiment together and create harmonies instead of discord. Our family deserves that." As laughter began to circulate again, this time less brittle, I felt Michael inch closer to me, a reassuring presence at my side. Would he hold this space for me against Victoria's challenges? "How about we start with next Sunday?" he proposed, smiling brightly. "We can test out a few new dishes. Everyone contributes." Victoria nodded as if to acknowledge that she had surrendered a little to our joined initiative, but her expression remained a trapdoor exit away from our carefully constructed bridge. Nevertheless, the idea took root, and soon we began devising a new plan, a way to truly connect over the flames of our intermingled histories. The momentum continued in the days that followed. My heart felt lighter as the gatherings became a channel for growth. Yet, beneath it all lay an unsettling undertone. Could this fragile peace last? Was there real change? Or would the unaddressed resentment bubble up again as it often had? It wasn't until the following weekend that I got my answer. The atmosphere in the house was electric as we prepared our collaborative meal together, the four of us united in the kitchen. I stood chopping vegetables, a fragrant bouquet of scents dancing around us, and I felt the sense of shared purpose ripple through the air. Laughter punctuated the task, each hour feeling like a bridge strengthened between me and everyone around. Halfway through the preparations, Victoria turned to me, an expression of seriousness overtaking her playful demeanor. "You know, I didn't expect you to push back last weekend," she admitted, vulnerability leaking through her facade. "I always thought you were content to be behind the scenes." I turned from the pot I was stirring, my heart racing as this felt like a milestone of transparency. "I played that role for so long, but I realized it wasn't me," I answered, my voice steady. "My dignity deserves to be included in our conversations too." As the evening sky deepened, casting a soft blue glow through the kitchen window, I could see my words resonate, a new perspective burgeoning in Victoria's eyes. For nearly a decade I had endured an ever-tightening silence, but now the quiet between us felt more reflective than oppressive. Laboring side by side, I saw a glimpse of a woman willing to listen, to learn, to reshape our collective family identity. Our contributions melded like colors in a tapestry, challenging and beautiful, an artwork crafted through resilience. With each spoonful of new recipes we tested, I felt the weight of old battles recede, replaced by shared laughter, and new memories formed in the warmth of our kitchen. Just as unity was born in us, a new era loomed ahead. Though the journey was long, what mattered most was that I finally claimed my place in this family, not as a backdrop but as a vital piece of our shared essence. And with that realization, the mantra echoed through my mind, a powerful reminder that no matter the circumstances, they can mute me at the table, never in my heart. As the weeks slipped by, the fragile balance we had built began to solidify, like a well-matured sauce, rich and complex. Our Sunday gatherings transformed from battlegrounds into celebrations of unity, but I couldn't shake the nagging worry that the peace was simply a veneer, ready to crack under pressure. My interactions with Victoria took on a new rhythm, a tentative dance where both of us navigated our respective roles cautiously, but I remained acutely aware that her past behavior forged a shadow over our evolving relationship. One afternoon, as I prepared an elaborate meal for our upcoming dinner, my mind wandered back to the ripple effects of our newfound cohesion. I found comfort in looking forward rather than dwelling. What would our family become if we continued to embrace this change? The luscious aroma of rosemary and garlic enveloped me in a familiar embrace, and I lost myself in the comforting rituals of chopping, stirring, and seasoning. The evening arrived faster than expected as I double-checked each detail. The table was adorned with finely embroidered linens. The china gleamed under the soft candlelight, and the meal poured heart and soul onto the plates. I felt a burgeoning hope blossom in my chest. Perhaps tonight we could move beyond the surface smiles into deeper conversations. But as guests began to arrive, the usual knot of anxiety returned. Victoria entered with her usual flair, flipping her hair back in a practiced motion, an air of elegance surrounding her. Yet I also sensed a tension under the surface, a worry creeping into my mind. Would tonight become a platform for her to showcase her dominance again? As we gathered around the table and shared anecdotes, the evening seemed to stretch infinitely, laughter echoing like soft music. As the night matured, I began to see glimpses of the new dynamic between us. The kids dashed around excited, and I felt an easy warmth build. My heart brimmed with hope. But as entrees were served and conversation flowed, I noticed Victoria's furtive, sidelong glances aimed at me. They were small, barely perceptible, but I felt the air shift at her moments of silent disdain. Dread pulled in my stomach as she leaned forward and opened her mouth, poised like a hawk ready to strike. Elena, your cooking is exceptional, but I wonder what will happen if, I don't know, a few of us want more modern takes. What if our guests prefer something different next time? My pulse quickened. Why was she narrowing in on me? Was this intended as an insult, cloaked in a compliment? The others shifted their gazes but remained silent, tension palpable in the air. I felt exposed, thrust into the spotlight once again, the invocations of my past haunting me. As my heart raced and my palms began to sweat, I steadied my breath, my mantra running silently through my mind. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. This time, I wouldn't let the waves of humiliation wash over me. With resolve hardened, I leaned forward to meet her gaze, determination blazing in my eyes. Victoria, while I appreciate your perspective, these meals are an expression of love and tradition woven into our family's history. They deserve respect, I replied, my voice steady. A ripple of surprise floated through the room, and I could see Michael's eyes flare with encouragement as he watched, ready for whatever tension hung in the balance. The table fell silent, but Victoria eyed me, her smile twitching at the corners. Respect is all well and good, but we have to evolve. Blending old with new, that's the secret sauce. Her tone dripped with enthusiasm, but her words made my heart sink. I understand, Victoria, I continued, my voice unwavering. But can we not actively make changes while appreciating the foundation? We have a chance to create a beautiful future as a family if we remember our past, not erase it. I felt the fire in my words ignite, and Michael's hand gripped my shoulder, lending me the strength I needed. Her expression shifted, the tension in her brow softening briefly. You're right, Elena. We can blend traditions. I was just thinking aloud. Please don't take offense. Yet, I detected a thread of hostility just beneath her conciliatory words. None taken, I replied, forcing a smile. But deep down, I felt the first inkling of doubt creeping back. The familiar fear of rejection angled at my heart once again. But that night, when the gathering waned and the laughter faded, a new sense of resolve entwined itself around me. My confrontation with Victoria marked a turning point. I claimed my voice in the face of confrontation and overshadowed helplessness. Each confrontation a step toward reclaiming my dignity that years of silent humiliation had threatened to dismantle. By the time everyone left and the house descended into shadows, I engaged in quiet reflection. I felt liberated by participating in a deeper conversation. It was not so much about food, it was about respect and finding a voice amidst adversity. I would not only stand my ground, but I would also earn the ability to shape our family's narrative alongside Victoria, not have it dictated upon me. The next day, as I roamed the sunlit kitchen, I found myself drafting recipes on paper, not just my usual fare, but a tapestry of childhood meals and innovations. I felt every word fill me, stitching strings of my soul back together. This was not merely about me. This was about building a new legacy worth passing down. With each meal I prepared, each detail I wrote, I fortified my identity. The results expanded into gatherings where respect front-ran insults, coexisting with new creations forged from our love for family. That evening, with the faint sense of simmering sources lingering in the air, I smiled to myself. The shift felt right, a landscape of possibilities stretching before me. I dared to dream of what was yet to come. In those moments, I embodied the essence of my mantra once more. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. It echoed louder now, a celebration of my individuality linked endlessly to family, a powerful affirmation in its simplicity, a reminder that I was indeed capable of transforming my narrative from a silence inflicted to a symphony of reclamation. As the date for the gathering approached, I poured my heart into perfecting each recipe, seeking harmony in both tradition and innovation. The sense of rosemary and garlic enveloped me, inviting memories of family and love while also igniting a flicker of anxiety about encountering Victoria's abrasive tendencies. Despite the tranquil rhythm of our preparations, I couldn't shake the tension lurking beneath the surface. Victoria's willingness to join me in the kitchen was promising, but I sensed her struggle to fully embrace our new camaraderie. As the evening of the gathering dawned, a mixture of excitement and dread filled the air. When guests began to arrive, my heart raced with anticipation. Gathering around the table felt like a ritual, yet I was acutely aware of the potential for conflict. Amidst the warm laughter and shared anecdotes, I carefully plated each dish, imbuing it with love and intentionality. But as the night wore on, Victoria's sharp remarks began to creep in. She turned to the gathering with her signature flourish. "Elena's food is nice, but is it really what our guests expect? Perhaps we need to rethink our traditional menu." The weight of her words crashed into me. Once again, I felt the sting of humiliation crawl beneath my skin. Would this night devolve into another verbal sparring match? Yet I knew I couldn't afford to retreat into my shell. This was not just about food, but rather a matter of dignity that demanded respect. Taking a deep breath, I met her gaze with determination. "Victoria, these recipes are an expression of our family history, and they hold immense value. We can innovate while still honoring the past." The air grew taut with tension, the guests exchanging uneasy glances. "You've always been afraid to innovate," she countered, her tone piercing as the room fell eerily silent. My heart raced, but I held firm, reminding myself of my mantra, repeating it quietly in my mind. "They can mute me at the table, never in my heart." "Fear?" "No," I said, feeling emboldened. "This is about respect and pride in our roots. We have a chance to create something beautiful together, if we put aside judgments." I saw a flicker of something in Victoria's eyes, perhaps regret or confusion, but it quickly vanished as she tightened her veil of defiance. "Let's not pretend this is solely about history," she retorted. "You're deflecting." But now I was ready for this battle. If respect is lacking, how can we share a meal? Our unity deserves better. Taking a pause, I could feel the weight of my words sinking into the atmosphere. After a moment of heavy silence, Victoria softened marginally. "Maybe there's room for both perspectives. We can adapt while appreciating what you bring to the table." The hesitance in her voice felt like a breakthrough of sorts. It opened the door for a new dynamic, and I sensed a shift among our guests, who leaned in, embracing the tension as their conversations intertwined. As the meal continued, I held on to the fleeting hope that tonight marked the turning point. No longer would I allow Victoria's domineering presence to shadow the respect I had fought to reclaim. Each dish served not only showcased my creativity, but also represented a stand against years of quiet suffering. In the subtle warmth of the moment, I realized that I was redefining my place within this family. The essentials of respect and recognition filled my heart. I had confronted my fears and carved out a narrative that embraced my identity. As I watched our guests share laughter and stories of their own, I let hope unfurl within me. It was time for all of us to cook up a bond strengthened through transparency and vulnerability. With each moment, I fortified my mantra anew, more deeply rooted than before. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. It lingered in the air, a promise of defiance and unity, affirming that I belonged at the table as a vital contributor, not merely a silent observer.